Hey, deserving listeners, Darcy and Stacey. Let's see what happens.
So, Cicero's pulling out all the stops, making me feel like a goddess.
Okay, so if this was the first time we'd seen this, I wouldn't think much of it. I'd say, okay, well, that's what she wants to be. That's what she wants to experience on a date. But we've been down this road so many other times, and there doesn't seem to be any self-awareness, any caution in what she's going through. And I'm not sitting here in disgust. I'm not judging her. I'm worried about her. So watching someone continue to approach things in a very similar way and be devastated by it and really legit hurt and having more reasons, I think, to hate herself on the inside, which I think causes her to do a lot of things on the outside to try to make up for it, is hard to watch. It's not hard for me, it's meaning that my life isn't impacted, but I mean, sometimes it is kind of, I guess, because it's stressful, but mostly I just have compassion for her. And who knows what we'll see here, but the pattern that we've seen before with so many others before on this show, and I'm guessing it happened off the show as well, that so my I think the main conceptualization I have is that she believes that she will never be acceptable, that no one will ever love her, that she'll never find someone that will love her for who she is. And she interprets a lot of relationships in the past as not being treated well, that the men don't respect her, that they don't serve her, that they're mean, they're abusive, they're toxic, they are exploitative, abusive. And I'm guessing that maybe some of that is true. With Jesse, yes, you could argue that there was intimidation and talking down to her and judging her. You could argue controlling her and maybe some physical stuff. So with that, but with Tom, with particularly Georgie, it wasn't necessarily there. I think with her and Tom, I think they both were upsetting to each other in some legitimate ways. With Georgie, at least what we saw on camera, Georgie was so nice on camera, on the edit. He was very accommodating. He would apologize, oftentimes the only one apologizing for situations that I don't think he needed to apologize for. She never apologized. And there were several opportunities where she should have apologized, or she did apologize, I think, for Georgie or for Michael that one time, but not really. So anyway, I think she interprets it that way because of her schema, because of what she's been through, her assumptions about herself and other people. I don't know, but it looks that way. At least that's what's being presented to us on the show. We can't know if any of this is real, but so I think that she struggles with that. She has a lot of schemas, a lot of assumptions, a lot of distortions, a lot of terror. And so she has a defense against that, and maybe some arrested development, a kind of childish version of what is true love. The princess and cartoonish version of what it's like to have the knight in shining armor come in and be this epic person, right? Someone who is rich and above her and romantic and always perfect and always accepting, and she is this elevated creature on a pedestal held up high, and that it's just a lot of distance, right? There's no closeness, there's no humanity in that model, in that perspective, in that expectation. And so she has this hope and this need, this black and white way of looking at dating relationships where it not only has to be perfect and he has to be perfect, but he has to see me as perfect, because any flaw, any humanity in there will undoubtedly result in a dissolution of the relationship, and another example of me being rejected and abandoned and realizing that I am rotten to my core, which I'm constantly trying to make up for. And so she's so desperate for it, which is natural for anyone, particularly if you have never had that. I mean, there's a chance. I mean, she was married before, had kids with her husband, but we don't know how that relationship went. I'm guessing it didn't go that well. I don't know. But there's a chance that she's never had a secure relationship. I mean, her relationship with Stacey, at least on the show, is pretty dicey. Her relationships with her mom seem kind of distant. With dad, maybe you could argue there's some closeness there, but he was in and out of her life as when she was young because he traveled a lot. And then I think he remarried and maybe had another family, if I remember right. Anyway, so she will resort in the beginning of a relationship to this black and white way of thinking of everything has to be perfect, and I'm going to see everything as perfect, and I'm going to shower him with a lot of compliments. She's already done that. She complimented his car. She complimented that he's a real man. Only a real man would drive this kind of car. And it's just this over-the-top complimentary style. And then when anything goes wrong, then she falls apart, right? And also there's a distant aspect to the way that she approaches people instead of just being real. But, there's a possibility that she doesn't know who she is. I think that there's a lot of possibility. I think her and Stacey both have issues with that, at least as what's being presented on the show. They don't really have a stable foundation of their identity, of what makes them good people, about their emotions and their needs and their aspirations at their core. I think they do a lot of things seemingly, and a lot of people are like this when they go through difficulties growing up. They do a lot of things because they're trying to be seen in a certain way, not necessarily in a shallow way, really. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for people who aren't given the opportunity to connect with themselves, some of you I know have told me that you're like this, given your histories, that it's just hard to know what you want, hard to know what you need. And so you just default to, well, if at the very least, maybe I'll be acceptable to other people, but it's not really addressing your needs on the inside, right? And of course, long-term therapy with a therapist that understands how to connect you with your needs and your emotions is the antidote to that, is the answer to that. But which, of course, I don't think Darcy or Stacey have ever been through or even know to go through. Anyway, so she's doing that again. She did it with Jesse. She did it with Tom. She did it with Georgie. Just compliments. You're the best. This is awesome. And then she'll start talking about getting married. She's already done that. She's already talked about wedding bells. And it's the first time I saw it, it just seems like, oh, she's really into him. But it's almost like this dissociative fugue that she goes into. I don't think it's that, but it's like this trance, this mode that she goes into where she just acts based on the script. There's no spontaneity. It looks the same way every time. You know what I mean? And it's just, maybe this is the one. Maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the one.
Yeah, I definitely can get used to this kind of man.
Yeah, she said that before. And then it won't be long before Cicero is this toxic, abusive, horrific gaslighter. I don't want to be judgmental or mean, but I'm just saying that we've heard this before. And again, my concern is not to judge her, but to worry about her. As a therapist, I always see potential. That's what we do in this field, is people come into us with maybe decades, lifelong problems, maybe transgenerational problems that have been passed down through several generations. And we as clinicians have optimism, even in some pretty dark times. We need to believe that there's some possibilities. There's some pathology to that, to be overly optimistic or overly promising to a client. But there's nothing about what I've seen on this show about her that I would say 5 years of intensive therapy with a competent therapist that is in the areas that I've been talking about couldn't help with significantly. I mean, these things could be changed. And it's, I don't know. Like, are we going to be watching this show for the next 10, 20 years and it's just going to be the same thing, and she's just going to get worse and worse and worse? And every time she goes through this, it compounds the trauma for her, right? The way she sees her relationship with Georgie, which I think is distorted. I mean, it would be weird if it wasn't at least a little bit, but it seems a lot distorted, is just giving her more reason to doubt herself and other people, and more reason to engage in the defenses that she exhibits.
The things that I told Michelle, like, I need a man that's driven, successful-minded, and just trying to match my frequency with someone else. I can't lower it because then it makes me stagnant. I don't want to get emotional right now because that's what happened. I feel like I wasted years of my life.
Okay, so she's framing it that with Georgie, and I guess maybe Tom and Jesse, that, at least with Georgie, that she wasted years of her life. I think that's not an irrational point of view. I don't know if she wasted it with Georgie, but at the very least, she's looking for a companion, and it's normal to look back on a relationship that you had hopes for and think, oh, I wasted all that time. I could have been doing something. I could have been looking for my soulmate, but I wasted all that time. I think that, at least given what we saw on camera, if she had engaged in some therapy that I think with a therapist that knows what they're doing, that's the thing. Like I would estimate that the sort of therapist she's looking for is probably 1 in 50. Like if she just randomly chose 50 therapists, I'm guessing there would only be a few in that group, 1 to 3 therapists that are actually competent or oriented in a way that actually would help her. That's the problem with my field, is that, when you have a problem with your foot, you go to a foot doctor. When you have a problem with your teeth, you go to a dentist. When you have a problem with your heart, you go to a cardiologist or something. And there's a whole system. You have your primary care provider who can direct you pretty easily. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right person, but it's easier to navigate than in psychotherapy, because so many therapists just say, I'm a therapist, and that's it. And maybe on Psychology Today on their website, it'll list a lot of different specialties, but often those lists are so general, or the therapist that checks those boxes doesn't really know even what they mean when they check those boxes. Who knows? Because as a client, you don't know what sort of therapy you even need. If Darcy were to say, I need therapy, I'm going to guess that she wouldn't even know what sort of therapy she needs, what sort of therapist to look for. And even if she did, like, y'all might know that because you just know, or you listen to this channel, you have an idea. And it's hard to find someone because they might advertise themselves that way, or everyone is full and they don't call you back. And, it's just a really rough scenario. And I've been yammering about this for many years. And I imagine that in 20, 50 years, there will be a better system of essentially matchmaking with clients, and also a greater number of therapists, and also more funding paid for by taxes or by health insurance or something. So it's rough. Sometimes, like if Darcy were to actually find the therapist that I think she deserves and needs, she might need to try 5 to 10 therapists before she finds the right one. And maybe you need to try them for half a year before you figure it out. It can take a while. So anyway, so she's talking about how she sees the relationship with Georgie and that she wasted her time, and she wants someone that's at her level. And so she sees Cicero, is that his name, Cicero? She sees him as being, I'm guessing, class and money and maybe age are a part of that. That can facilitate things for sure. But if I were her friend, I'd be like, it's great that he, in your eyes, you share that, and those are good things. But at the core of a relationship is the way you love each other, the stability, how you vibe with each other, if you have chemistry, things that have really nothing to do with one's career or money or anything.
No, please, don't make me sad now. Please, everything good. No worry, please.
And he's doing something that I would say 99% of people do. I don't advocate for that reaction. If she's crying, just listen. Just be like, oh, okay, tell me more. Or I don't know, just don't say anything. She's in a zone, just have a compassionate face. So to tell someone, don't cry, everything's going to be fine, you know what I think about that.
I've wasted so many years of my life with men that brought me down and never lifted me up. I feel like I lowered my standards, gave too much of myself away, and got nothing in return. Maybe my self-esteem wasn't high enough. Maybe I thought I didn't deserve more.
Yeah, I think she actually believes that, and in essence, that's true and that's wise and that's something to focus on. But her solution is to manufacture self-esteem through just telling herself that she's an empowered woman, and also refusing to listen to feedback. She believes, I think, that if she listens to, say, Georgie give her feedback, and Georgie say, hey, I don't like this and that, I think she perceives that as, well, that makes me feel bad about myself, and I already feel horrifically bad about myself. So a good thing for me to do for my self-esteem is to deny that. You can't do that to me. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm empowered. I'm a good person. Of course, that completely cuts yourself off from interacting with other people and having a relationship. I think, so her premise is accurate, that she has low self-esteem. I mean, she's saying that, so we have to believe it. Plus, there's a lot of signs of that. And it's true that empowerment and having people around her that build her up is a solution to that. But her tactic to attain that actually causes the problem, right? Because in her doing that, she causes people to leave her, or she just breaks up with people because she becomes convinced of things, and thus gives her more reason to feel bad about herself. Our defenses often cause the very problem we're trying to defend, unless we have a lot of self-awareness and a lot of healing and a lot of work that you do in therapy.
So I settled for less, but not anymore.
And of course, we've heard that phrase every single step of the way. She said that after Jesse. She said that after Tom. She said that, now she's saying it after Georgie. So every single time she said, you just think that, I would hope that everyone in relationships, when they find themselves having repetitive patterns, they would think, maybe this is me partially at the very least. And maybe that requires therapy. I don't know.
He picked me up in his car. It was like a Lamborghini sports car. Never been in one of those before.
And what'd you wear?
I wore a white pantsuit with like a body chain with like a little nude top underneath.
It sounds like the girls were covered.
The girls were covered in diamonds, baby.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the matchmaker's approach here, because everything is individual, right? Maybe Cicero wants her style of dress. Also, I imagine that matchmaking, the principle should be that you help people be themselves and find someone that loves them for themselves, and to try to force it in. Now, I think this matchmaker is sought out to, and maybe it's even explicitly discussed, that I am someone that helps people of a certain class meet each other, and part of my job responsibility and part of the reason why you're hiring me is that I help you to act like someone in that class. Darcy said something along those lines when she first talked about Michelle. She's like, she's a high-end, I think she even said like high-class matchmaker, celebrities and rich and famous people or something. So I don't know. It's hard to know what the mission statement is or what Darcy signed up for. I don't matchmake, of course, but with my clients, sometimes they are single and talking about their dating situation and their experiences. Sometimes that can last for years, and there will be conversations about what to do and how to approach it, and their own growth within that, and their own boundaries and what they're learning, and relationship experiences, and how to be yourself and what you should be focusing on. And people have a lot of traumas and a lot of cultural indoctrination that will interfere with that. And so I'll talk with clients about this very thing. And so I'm not matchmaking, but I am trying to facilitate their ability to find a soulmate, a companion, a good match, or to just experience positive dating experiences. And I would never consider suggesting or even thinking that I would evaluate the way that they dress. Like, be yourself, dress how you want, really. And if someone doesn't want to date you because of the way you dress, then obviously they're not the right person. I mean, I suppose there are some outliers that where, I mean, I can't imagine saying anything, but maybe there's some situations where it's completely outlandish, or you should be more mindful, like if you're going to a nice restaurant and you show up in your regular pajamas, that I guess could be off-putting, but I don't know. In Seattle, we're quite literally possibly the most casual dressed place in the world. I mean, aside from, I don't know, rural areas where you're, I don't know, I don't even want to say that. I just feel like in Seattle, we're known for being the most casual, comfortable dressed people. My in-laws came over last night, and I just took note of, like, because I felt a little underdressed, and because I thought, well, you know, we're having a nice dinner, and I thought, I think I'm a little underdressed. But then when my in-laws showed up, I was like, no, if anything, I'm overdressed. I wasn't overdressed, but everyone's in fleeces and comfortable shirts and comfortable pants, and and shoes, and everyone has their own style. So maybe I'm not the person to talk about this, but I don't know. She's, I'm guessing, a very helpful person. She's helped a lot of people, so I just have to assume that her approach is the right approach. Okay, well, let's end it there and tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone, please take care of yourself and take care of others, because we all deserve it. We really, really do. We really do.